Hi, and welcome back to part two of our family history during World War II and the Cold War. In part one, I covered World War II quite extensively about how our family was divided during World War II. My father, who had gone to Germany and Romania for visits prior to World War II and got to know the cousins over there, was divided from them, as my father and all of his brothers served in the U.S. military during World War II, as they were born in Cincinnati, but all their cousins served in the German army. Once the Germans came into German-speaking areas of Romania, they took all of them right into the German army as well. And then after World War II, most of our cousins remained in their hometown in Romania. Some did stay in Austria, which was a neutral country, and others stayed in Romania, but life became worse and worse on the east side of the Iron Curtain. And things were very bad in Romania throughout those Cold War years, especially under Ceausescu in Romania, and especially the ethnic German people in the German towns. Most of the goods and farm produce that was produced actually went from places like Bulgaria and Romania up to East Germany and of course to Moscow and the Soviet Union, as they were the stronger countries of the Warsaw Pact or the Soviet bloc. And they really kind of tried to show off East Germany because it did border West Germany, particularly East Berlin. They tried to make it look like a paradise there, but it was really very poor throughout most of the Soviet bloc countries, that's for sure. By the early 1960s, the East Germans and the Russian satellite countries were experiencing way too many people leaving for the West, because after World War II in the late 40s and 50s, life was getting better in the capitalist West compared to the communist East. And so they had a real drain of workers and intellectuals, folks like that were coming across to West Germany. So they decided to seal off the border and construct the Iron Curtain, which was all of the fencing and guard towers that went for about 1,400 kilometers from the North Sea, and it split East and West Germany and went all the way down around Czechoslovakia and Hungary. And of course, there's the famous Berlin Wall, where they built a wall all the way around West Berlin as well to seal things off and stop that flow of people. And it wasn't just the East Germans and the Soviets responsible for sealing off the border. The West Germans and Americans were responsible for sealing it off as well. In the 40s and 50s, a lot of the cities and towns in West Germany that were close to the actual border, as it was split up after World War II, as you know, different sectors of Germany and Europe were split up between the Warsaw Pact and the American in the West. And so there was a lot of tension along the border. There was a lot of people coming across from East Germany during the day into the shops of the West German towns, and there was a lot of theft and chaos, and vandalism, and things like that. And people were very upset. The money was different. The exchange rates were different between the East German marks and the West German marks. And that caused a lot of problems as well. So the Americans and the West Germans decided they were going to seal off all of the roads that went between East Germany and West Germany, except for some of the more major highways, and they would have then official crossing points instead of all these roads that just went back and forth. So they called that area of the border the frontier, because roads would just dead end, and of course they had patrols, both East German patrols and West German patrols and American patrols. And they sealed it off, and eventually the East Germans just built all that fencing and guard towers. So there's a really good book on how the inter-German border was constructed and why, and all of those things that were going on. It's available in most public libraries, and it's called Burn Bridge: How East and West Germans Made the Iron Curtain. It's by Edith Schaeffer. I highly recommend it if you really want to dig deep into the hows and whys. By the 1970s, both sides were dug in, and established in their economic and political systems. Of course, there was lots of propaganda from both sides. The Russians and East Germans would spread propaganda in the West, and the West Germans and Americans would send a lot of propaganda to the East through Radio Free Europe and American Forces Radio. And there was lots of spies that went back and forth between the East and West. If you really want to learn about what life was like growing up in East Berlin, there's a really good book called The Iron Curtain Kid by Oliver Fritz. He also has a great website surrounding the book. I check it out. I would suggest checking it out. Again, it's called Iron Curtain Kid. Really, really good book to read. Both of these books that I just recommended are really good to get some good insight. In the early 1960s, I had cousins escape from Romania and resettle in West Germany. And all of the rest of the family from ethnic German Romania finally did make it into West Germany after the collapse of the Soviet Union and when the wall came down. I was proud to serve and protect the old homeland of West Germany, as West Germany was part of NATO, and that's where my family originally came from before they went to Romania in the 1700s. And again, I was very proud to just be an American soldier stationed there for 3 years. Between ages 19 and 22 is when I was stationed over there, from about 1978 to about 1982. It was really a great experience. I got to know many of my cousins and hear a lot of this family history. So I would suggest you do a lot of reading and research into the Cold War before this period of history kind of goes by the wayside, because it really was an